Raising the Bets is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to Raising the Bets, a family podcast of pirates and penguins. We're a Catholic couple raising 5 kids outside of Boston. Join us as we share the joys and challenges of marriage, homeschool, our adventures near and far, as we make sense of the world and experience the best parts of our culture. I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
So, how are you doing, Melanie?
Sleepy.
It's been a long week and a long day.
It's been a very long day.
A good day. We all got to Mass today together.
Yay!
That was a big accomplishment. Our early morning Mass. Yes, there was many blessings in that. I don't need to go into detail on that, but just be assured that it was not a sure thing that we would all get there and that it would go off as well as it did. No one had to leave. The 2 children served at Mass. It was very nice. But today also saw an ending. Your sister Teresa has left. She's flown the coop and she's winging her way back to Texas as we speak.
Yes.
So what do you think of that? We've had 3 months basically of visits from family.
I love my family, and it's always wonderful to see them. I think next year we might want to spread the visits out a little bit more over the year. That's all.
We are in a, 1,400 square foot house? 7 people. We do not have a guest room. So we have an inflatable mattress that we put into the living room that guests sleep on. So it's a bit, crowded. And we're all here all during the day because we homeschool and I work from home. Adding another person into the mix. I mean, I don't want to sound like I don't want them here. It just creates a new thing you have to deal with. That's all. It's good. It's fine. But, as we head in toward Thanksgiving and Christmas, we have to kind of shift our focus and gears in that direction. The kids were sad to see Teresa go.
Yes.
Especially Ben.
And I'm sad. I mean, yeah. I honestly thought that she had like another week, and I said, and the kids were starting to get sad, and I said, "Oh, but we've got another week," and she's like, "No, I'm actually leaving tomorrow."
So it was a bit sudden.
It felt very abrupt. So yeah.
I mean, she's been here for a couple weeks. It was a lengthy visit, which was nice. I'm glad she broke the bed, the air mattress bed on our last night, not at the beginning of the visit. The air pump sucked in some yarn, and so it's not broken. We gotta just get it out of there.
It has to be unjammed.
It is jammed full of yarn. But she sewed a bunch of stuff. She
crocheted,
sewed, knitted. All the loom, she wove it with her loom, with the warp and weft. She brought this loom from Texas. She crocheted a couple hats and a big scarf, and it was nice.
Yes.
Yeah. And Ben is, I think, again, we've said before how Ben is so attached to his auntie. And so he was sad to see her go, but it was so nice to have her visit. It was good, and to have your parents visit. That can't happen forever. I mean, they're going to slow down at some point, and it's going to be more difficult for them to come. And it's really hard for us to ship 7 of us down to Texas. So it's nice to have them here now, which is good. So ends, as I like to call it, the fall of the House of Scots, as in the autumn of the house full of Scots.
Right.
Melanie's family, their last name is Scott. So, but I like to call it the Fall of the House of Scots. It feels like an Edgar Allan Poe story.
I guess that's better than the Telltale Heart or something. I don't know.
Did Teresa leave, or is she walled up but with the cask of Amontillado? So, also yesterday, the weather, winter is here. It was like, oh, it's summer, oh, fall, winter, like suddenly. And so it's been very cold. I think we talked about that before, but yesterday we went to the farmer's market, which I think is our last farmer's market.
Yeah, I think so.
The farmer's market we go to, the Hingham Farmer's Market, they are troopers. They're one of the first to start and one of the last to stop, to end. I mean, most farmers markets in this area, they're like June to September, and then they're done. But this one, it hangs on, and because they get people to come, which is great. Although I know Second Nature wasn't there yesterday. But yeah, it starts to shrink. There's fewer vendors, fewer people.
Fewer and fewer and fewer, but there's always the diehards in the cold November breeze, because it's right on the beach.
Yeah,
so
it was 20 degrees and blowing wind, and we were bundled up in freezing cold, but we're getting our fresh eggs, and the jam ladies were there, and
we got some potatoes and onions.
The pies, don't forget the pies by Moira.
Pies.
Oh man, she makes some awesome pies.
Butternut squash and Brussels sprouts and apples and pears.
The Asian pears, the Jerry's Asian pears. Jerry and his wife are this really nice couple who, I think Jerry retired and bought like a pear farm or pear orchard and has been growing like Asian pear varieties. And that's his thing. And they're only there when the pears are in season. So probably, I think, September is when they start.
Yeah, like
usually sometime in September through the end of the season. I think they were saying this is was this their last week or next week?
I think they were saying that they'd be there next week, but we wouldn't be. And
right.
then next week would be their last week. He was hoping that maybe next year they could go longer and like actually have some for the winter market. But he had a really bad harvest this year because it was such a bad spring.
Yeah, wet and bad spring. So, so it's 20 degrees out yesterday. The blowing wind, I mean, the wind chill must have been, I don't know, single digits. It was so cold. And there's always that one guy. There's this one guy walking around in sandals, shorts, and a t-shirt.
Short sleeve t-shirt.
Short sleeve t-shirt. When my mom used to say to me as a kid, "Put some clothes on, you're making me cold," I didn't believe her. Now I believe her. That guy was making me freezing. It was like, what is wrong? And he's not like 20. This guy was like 50 if he was a day.
Yeah, he was he
was old enough to know better.
Right. It was weird.
I don't know what that was about. Was it a dare? It was out of bet. I don't know.
He didn't look like he was terribly cold.
I know.
He wasn't shivering.
Maybe he's Russian or something.
No, he did not have a Russian accent.
In Soviet Union, we walk around in the below freezing weather. We have vodka for antifreeze.
Okay.
Sorry, my out of date pop references. So the farmers market, we all bundled ourselves off like, okay, we've had enough. We'd back to the car, warm up, and then home. But I'm sad to see it end because next week is the official last. They always go to the Saturday before Thanksgiving so that like the farm that sells the turkeys can get them to people and everyone can get their last minute Thanksgiving Day stuff that's still available, the pies and all that sort of thing, the jams and Brussels sprouts because it's still Brussels sprout season. This is when I envy like California and Texas, like that has like multiple growing seasons, like through the year. Like they have farmers markets all year long.
Well, not Texas, but California.
Well, California does.
At least not Central Texas where I'm from. Like the farmers market does not go all year round.
Right, that's true. But certainly, yeah, like in California, they have year-round farmers markets. So it's about the only thing I envy of California at this point. Yeah. So, but the good news, so they've done winter markets before, where what was it, like January, from January to March, they would have once a month. They used to do once a month. They'd have a winter market at some indoor location in town, and it would be a small subset of the vendors. You know, obviously whoever had winter type stuff, whether it's jams and packaged things or winter vegetables or stuff. But this year they said it's going to be every other week from January through end of March, and it's going to be at a state park that's nearby, Wampatuck State Park, in the visitor center where there's a big stone fireplace, and they're going to have selling hot chocolate, and there'll be places to sit and relax. I'm like, this is like going to be like the Green Dragon Inn. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to bring my own giant pint for, well, probably not beer, but hot chocolate.
Think they have beer.
It would be nice. But it sounds very cozy, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. So that was our very cold winter farmers market yesterday. So let's talk about what we've been cooking, because we want to warm up now. We made because of the weather, it was cold. We made our Asian noodle soup. It's sort of like I had to say, like, sort of generically Asian. It's Asian ingredients. It's almost like it's kind of Japanese noodle soup, but it's not like ramen soup. Yeah,
well, I basically it's a miso soup broth, but then served with noodles.
Right, to kind of give it some heft.
But I started when I first started cooking it, it was just sort of like, it wasn't really a miso broth. It was just like whatever random ingredients I could throw into a pot, like soy sauce and I don't know, rice vinegar and.
But we have would you use the instant dashi?
Yeah.
So like you could make dashi, which is like bonito flakes and a seaweed, and you soak the seaweed in the bonito flakes, and it gives all the flavor to it, and that's really good. But it's time consuming. It's a lot of work and a lot of ingredient. So they sell an instant dashi where it's just sort of like a bouillon, but it's like
a fish bouillon.
Yeah, and you sprinkle it into the water, you boil it, and stir it, and then add miso. Then we always add like tofu, and if we get some like leftover pork chop or chicken or something, we'll throw that in there.
Mushrooms, scallions.
Sometimes sometimes we'll
dried seaweed.
Yeah. Yes. The
wakame.
Wakame. Yes. And then we'll have several different kinds of noodles served on the side, so that you put the noodle in your bowl, then you put the soup over it. So we'll have usually soba, udon, and then a rice noodle that Lucy can eat. Just or a mung bean, like the glass noodles, so that she can eat those. And everyone likes it, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, everyone's always happy.
That's 100% meal. Everyone. It's a little bit of assemble it yourself. It's Bella's favorite, right?
Right.
I think it's her favorite.
Yeah, but everyone likes it. Like a big bowl of noodles, some hot broth, and
I love soups.
Yeah, it's good.
I am big on soups. In fact, I like ramen, like not just like the good stuff at the restaurant. I mean, instant ramen. But I don't like the good instant ramen. Like the kids eat the cheap instant ramen, the 30 cents that you bought when you were in college because that's all you could afford. I like the ones where like they have rankings. Like I think the LA Times was the most recent one I read that ranked instant ramen, instant noodles, and one was by like Iron Chef Morimoto, and it was really hard to get. I found it on Amazon, but it was really hard to get. Like that had to be shipped from, I don't know, Japan or something. And it's really good. I mean, it's like the broth has like, it's not just water with flavor. It's got, the umami. It's got the feel, the mouthfeel, and it's got good flavor. And the noodles get good flavor, good texture. It was really kind of interesting. But I always like to spice it up a bit. I throw extra things in. I'll throw, leftover meats or an egg. I'll kind of put that in there. Or if I got a hard-boiled egg, I'll put that in there. That'd be great. But all kinds of stuff. Just kind of spice up a bit. So, but I love these like rankings of instant ramens, and I'm always trying new ones. To Melanie's consternation, because I always get these packages of ramen everywhere. But
yeah, I don't know. I associate ramen with like dorm rooms in college.
Yes, being poor and having to. Yeah, I know it's not the best thing. It's very high in salt. And
I mean, mind you, I always had a meal plan. Ramen was more like it's the middle of the night and I'm still hungry and the cafeteria is now closed sort of food. I didn't actually survive on it.
It's the only thing to eat because you could cook it in the microwave.
Right. Yeah. Well, or a hot pot. I had a hot pot in my dorm room.
Ooh, was that legal?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We were allowed to have hot pots and microwaves, but like a kettle.
Like a tea kettle.
Yeah.
Like the kettle for boil water.
Kettle.
Yes, electric kettle.
Right. So I'd boil water and then pour it into the cup of noodles.
Yeah, some of my friends who went to schools in Boston where the buildings were old were not allowed to have like fridges or hot pots or.
Oh,
But keep in mind, this is the mid '80s. Like before, like now they had to have upgraded because everyone's got a computer now. They have to have had upgraded all of the electricals in all those buildings. There's just no way they could have gotten by with that with all these years.
Oh, I managed to get a fridge at the end of my freshman year. They were cleaning out the storage room, and somebody had like put a fridge in storage like 5 years before and never come back to claim it. So I totally named it and claimed it and grabbed it. And so then after that, I always had a mini fridge.
Didn't we have? Was that the mini fridge that I took to the office?
It might have been.
And left?
You left.
When I worked for the Archdiocese.
You left my mini fridge?
I left it there. I left it with George. Because George was still there when I left. And so I didn't want to take it away from George. But I think I forgot all about it and never actually asked him when he left what happened to the fridge.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah.
Then
Not like we really need a mini fridge here.
No.
Although it would be nice to have like a mini fridge right next to my desk.
Uh-huh.
Because that's all we need is more electricity flowing through these circuits.
I think we might have brownouts.
Yeah, yes. We already do have issues of...
that was creepy.
That was
the
creepy.
lights in the office just dimmed as soon as I said brownout. That was really weird.
Yes, they're on the motion sensor, so I just wave my hand and they go back on. Yes, but that was kind of well timed. But okay, so back on topic. So for today, Sunday dinner, you wanted to make a traditional Sunday dinner, so we had roast beef and Yorkshire pudding and potatoes and cauliflower and sweet potatoes.
Yeah, it was good.
It was a good dinner. Yorkshire pudding. I don't know if everybody knows what that is.
Probably not.
It is not what you think it is. It's not like pudding, like Bill Cosby with a little cup and chocolate. You know, it's British pudding.
It's bread.
It's a bread. It's a quick bread that you bake in the oven, in a 9x13 casserole pan. At least that's how I did it.
So it's flour, salt,
butter,
milk, butter, eggs.
Right. Or as I called it, it's basically sort of an English version of French toast.
No, except French toast has like pre-made bread that you're dipping into eggs.
I know, but it could be like French toast. I didn't quite cook it as much as I should have. Like it was a little underdone. It was a little doughy. I should have hit 5 more minutes in the oven.
Yeah, not everybody was a fan of it this time.
Yeah, I'll try it again. It's so easy to do. I mean, it's you put your 13x9 baking pan in the oven, 10 minutes, 450, just the pan by itself. You melt 4 tablespoons of butter. You get a cup of flour, and you get a cup of milk, 2 eggs. You mix the milk and the eggs together. Then you add the flour. What was it? Oh, flour, salt, and
flour and salt.
Just flour and salt. No leavener.
Nope.
Yeah. So you mix those together. You add those to the mixed eggs and milk. And then when the 10 minutes is up, you open the oven. You pour the butter into the bottom of the pan. You spread it around. Then you pour the batter all in. Just pour it all in there. Close the oven. Wait 15 minutes. Then you lower the temperature in the oven to 350, from 450 to 350, for another 15 to 20 to 25 minutes until it's golden brown, and it's done. Easiest thing ever. The best thing is if you actually have meat drippings, which is what I should have done, is you should add them to the to the butter or in place of the butter or whatever, because that's really, really good. But that adds that flavor to it. It's so simple. I mean, it's amazingly simple, but so good. I mean, it's flour and butter and eggs and milk. What's wrong with that? So, I guess if you're keto, you don't eat that. And the roast beef was good. It was a nice eye round and well done, well cooked. Not well done. Nice medium rare. Was good. Very good. So that's what we've been eating. Obviously, we've had other meals, but that's what we've mainly been eating. The interesting things. And then, so let's move on to what we've been reading and watching. Of course, the big news this week is that Disney Plus premiered, and we watched The Mandalorian, which is awesome.
Well, actually, I didn't watch it with the rest of everyone because you guys watched it when I was doing something, cooking probably.
Yeah.
I tried to watch it later that night, and I fell asleep in the middle.
That's no reflection on the quality
No, that's just me.
It's just
not getting enough sleep.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I was saying if it wasn't for the Mandalorian, I don't know that I would have subscribed to Disney Plus. I mean, I have all the Star Wars movies already on, Blu-ray. I have, I like the Marvel movies well enough, but I don't know that I need to pay extra in order to get access to watching them whenever I want, that sort of thing. And there's other stuff, but this show is good enough to subscribe to. In fact, our friend Jeff Miller was saying that he was hoping that the Mandalorian would be terrible so that he wouldn't have an excuse to give money to Disney, but it's really good. He actually watched the first episode at his daughter's house, and he was like, "Oh, take my money." It is a great Western in Star Wars. I mean, it's the music is it's like an old Clint Eastwood, the gunfighter with no name, who is hard bitten, the best at what he does, and is saddled with a responsibility for someone that calls forth from him a goodness, and I think, like a lot of Star Wars, it's about family and fatherhood, and not explicitly, at least not yet, as I've only seen 2 episodes, but sort of a kind of fatherhood, a kind of care, a kind of duty of care. It's very interesting and very well done. Jon Favreau is the executive producer and creator of it, and he made the movie Chef, which was another one of my favorite movies. Actually, it was a great movie. Also, where he directed and acted in it, where he was a father and father connecting with his son, and I think that's one of the things that Jon Favreau was really interested in doing. He also did The Lion King, which is about a father and his son.
The original?
The remake.
The remake.
The one that just made $1 billion.
Oh, I don't really pay attention to
the
these things.
quote unquote live action, which wasn't live action. It was just computer animated as opposed to traditional animated.
But it looked more like
it looked real.
Okay.
Yeah. It was CGI.
Right.
But so Mandalorian is really good. And then we're discovering the other Star Wars stuff that's on there. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of other stuff on there. There's Marvel, like I said, and there's the old Disney stuff. But we're really, looking at the Disney stuff so far. We found a bunch of the Star Wars Resistance is there, Star Wars Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels. So I'm looking forward to, the kids being able to watch these things that I've enjoyed over time. So not all at once, of course, but over time. So 2 thumbs up, way up. Now you had something, not so much traditionally a book or a movie or a TV show, but something that you read, an article from Canada. Do you kind of want to talk about that a little?
Sure.
So what was that?
The headline really grabbed me. He saved our lives. BC, that's British Columbia, woman among 1,000 Polish children adopted by an Indian Maharaja during World War II.
I'd never heard of that.
Right. How do you miss 1,000 children being adopted by a Maharaja?
Yeah. Why has no one ever talked about that or made a movie about this?
Oh, it totally sounds like it should be a movie.
So what happened?
So yeah, the story is an interview with this particular woman.
She was born in a village in Poland. She was one of 7 in the family.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember the numbers.
Well, it's okay. So and then when the Germans invaded Poland but at that time the Russians were the German allies, invaded Poland in 1939. They were taken away. They were taken away by the Soviets. Get up. You're leaving. Right. You can't take anything with you.
Right. They were told not to bring anything with them because everything that they needed would be provided for them when they got to Siberia, which was a lie.
Right. In fact, people were starving.
And in fact, the story, the first part of the story actually reminds me a lot of a book that I've read, children's book called The Endless Steppe. And it's about a girl who grew up, she was a Jewish girl in Lithuania who her family was deported to Siberia after the Russians took over.
There was a policy they had to sort of depopulate lands that they wanted, move the people somewhere else, and move Russians in, or the Germans did that in what was the area of Alsace? Was that it?
I don't know. I don't know what you're thinking.
There's a region, the Strasbourg region, that was on the French border, where they moved out the French, moved German-speaking people in, and now it's Germany. And the Russians did the same thing to Poland and other places. It was a policy of sort of replacing the population.
So anyway, she and they were separated from her father and one of her brothers, and she and her mom and the other siblings were deported to Siberia. They were sometime later, their father found them and they were reunited.
But the mother had already died.
But the mother was dead, and the father realized that there was no way he could take care of them all. So he ended up putting them in an orphanage.
The three youngest ones.
The youngest ones, right. And they never saw their father again. Like, that was it.
Right. Or any of the siblings, the other siblings, I would guess.
Right. I don't know. It didn't sound like that she'd ever seen any of her siblings again. But anyway, then...
In 1941.
Right. Then the Russians...
they declared an amnesty for orphans to leave Russia.
Right. And so all of these Polish orphans were then adopted by this Indian Maharaja.
1,000 of them. The ruler of Nawangnagar, which is part of the time, part of the Raj, part of the British India.
Right.
And he took 1,000 children. They traveled by train first to Persia, which is now Iran, and then 1,500 kilometers on army trucks to the village where the Maharaja greeted them. And basically told them what?
He said, I'm your father now. I'm the father of all the people in my country, and so I'm your father. You are no longer orphans.
Wow. And so they built dormitories. The children were educated.
Right. He actually brought Polish-speaking teachers to educate them so that they didn't lose their Polish...
Their culture, their language. Yeah.
Fed them, clothed them, educated them. And eventually she ended up going to England, and then from there to Canada. When she was in England, she had a pen pal who they were trying to arrange a marriage between her and their son. She went to Canada and then ended up marrying some other guy.
Didn't work out
with the pen pal.
Yeah. And now she's 83 and living in British Columbia, or 88, living in British Columbia. And, for some reason, some anniversary or something came up, but she was talking about this to the CBC. I mean, this is an amazing story. Like, no one ever make a movie about this. This would be a great movie, or at least a book. But she says, at the end of the article, she says that the Maharaja was a good man, and if he were alive and she could see him, she would hug him. And she says, I have no idea what would have happened to us. 1,000 kids. The war was everywhere. I have no idea what they would have done with us. Nobody wanted us. What an amazing story. 1,000 kids saved by this guy who was not even he wasn't European. He was just of a whole other culture.
And you wonder, I wish that the story had more details of, from his point of view, how did he find out about these Polish orphans? What made him decide to step in personally, and why the 1,000? Where were they all from? One orphanage? Were they from several orphanages? I'm just really curious about the details now. Right.
There's so many more stories that could be told. He does have a Wikipedia page. We should probably look at that at some point. Interesting. He died in 1948. No, he died in 1966. He was the Maharaja to 1948. Interesting. So, yeah, in 1942, he established a Polish children's camp. It existed until 1945 when it was closed, and the children were transferred to another city. And there's a school in Warsaw named after him. the Jam Sahib Digvijay Singh Jadija School that rolls off Polish tongues in Warsaw. And in 2016, Poland's parliament unanimously adopted a special resolution honoring him for its aid to Polish children. There is a documentary that was made in collaboration between India and Poland, so it's probably not in English.
Yeah.
And I think, did you mention that they named a square or a street in Poland after him?
I think more than one.
Wow.
Things named after him. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh yeah, Good Maharaja Square in Warsaw was named after him.
I like that. Good Maharaja.
The Good Maharaja. It's such a cool story. It's such an uplifting story. He was also president of the Board of Control for Cricket in India. There you go. He's also the equivalent of baseball commissioner.
Is that what that is?
I'd say. Let's go with that.
Okay.
So that was such a cool story when you told me about that. I thought there was more people. So we'll put the link to the CBC article in the show notes on sqpn.com, and you can check it out for yourself. So the other thing we want to talk about were today's Sunday readings. We're moving toward Christ the King Sunday, which is did we it was next Sunday?
Next Sunday
is the end of the year, and
I'm so not ready for the year to be ending.
As we speak, it is the 17th. Next Sunday is the 24th. That is also, by the way, the anniversary of my baptism.
November 24th, which is also my little brother's birthday.
There you go. And so we'll be talking about that when we're, I got a cool story about meeting the priest who baptized me unexpectedly.
My little brother who will be 40 next year.
Wow. You're old. Actually, I've been feeling very old because Tim was really young when I met him. So the 24th, and of course, the 28th is Thanksgiving, and December 1st is the first Sunday of Advent. And so rarely does the beginning of Advent begin on December 1st. So your Advent calendars will actually work as regular calendars this year.
I'm very excited about that. I don't know why I should be so excited, but it always kind of niggles at me that like Advent starts and either you have to open like 3 doors in your Advent calendar because like you're already several days into December,
you forgot about it. Yeah.
Or else like, because
the Advent calendars start on December 1st.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just 24 days, 24 windows to open. And Advent isn't always 24 days long.
Right. That's true. This is true. The Advent calendars would have to be reprinted every year. That would be terrible.
Right.
Well, then there's the new thing. We could talk about this, I guess, when it's Advent. But there's the new thing about these sort of secular Advent calendars, like the whiskey Advent calendar and the Star Wars Lego figures Advent calendar.
Cheese Advent calendar. Actually, the chocolate Advent calendar sound like a good idea.
A lot of these sound really good, but it's kind of a curious thing that suddenly has become a thing. Like these sort of secular product Advent calendar. I wonder where that came from.
Yeah, I don't know.
I suppose it's a marketing gimmick. Hey, we could sell 24 of this thing in a package for people and make it hey, you can open one every day.
Right.
I mean, some marketing guy thought of it somewhere. I mean, is it an old tradition, like an Advent calendar of you open it up and take it like a candy out? I think that's what.
Right. I mean, I remember seeing some time ago they started popping up like these little cabinets with like drawers and like so you could fill them with little presents.
Right.
So it was like sort of a DIY sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I suspect then that somebody said, wait, if people are doing it themselves, why not? I think the first one I saw that was actually professionally marketed was a wine one.
Oh yeah, 24 days of wine.
24 days of wine.
24 bottles. Which is what, 2 cases? 24 bottles, yeah.
That's a lot of wine.
That's a whole lot of wine for some people.
For me, it would be a lot of wine.
So Advent's coming, but it also means it's the end of the liturgical year, and so all of our readings at Mass this month have to do with the end of things, which is the nice thing about the way that we do the church year. And we wanted to, so today's readings particularly struck both of us as we were going on the way to church this morning, and we were you were reading the readings to the kids. So the first reading was from Malachi, and it's very short. Lo, the day is coming, blazing like an oven, when all the proud and all evildoers will be stubble. And the day that is coming will set them on fire, leaving them neither root nor branch, says the Lord of hosts. But for you who fear my name, there will arise the Sun of Justice with its healing rays, which is the interesting English pun there, by the way, the Sun of Justice.
Sun, yes.
Which it's S-U-N, in case you didn't read the Missalette this morning or this Sunday. So, of course, the imagery there, the blazing like an oven, stubble, root or branch, this is all agricultural. You would burn the fields after the harvest. All the chaff, all of the weeds, all the leftover stuff that wasn't good to collect was burned, either collected and burned in an oven or burned in the field. Some stuff, burning it in the field for some plants created a good environment for the next year's crop. But whichever case it is, it's the fire. It's a fire image. But and so I like this idea, like the Lord is like the blazing sun. For evildoers, that sun will scorch and burn. But for the righteous, it warms and heals. It's the same sun.
Right. That's what gets me is I think it's C.S. Lewis who kind of uses some of that imagery that talks about the same blazing love of God. God's love is like a fire, and it either feels horribly repellent to us or it feels warm and healing.
Right. And it's our disposition that makes the difference.
Right.
It's whether we receive it or reject it. And if we reject it, it burns us. But if we receive it, it heals us and warms us. So I really like that. That was Malachi. And then the second reading from Thessalonians, with Paul talking about how, the community at Thessalonica must have been a little bit, well, frankly, like a lot of parishes today, where there's some gossiping going on. Some people are letting everyone else do all the work because, hey, they're willing to do it, so why should I? The end's coming soon anyway, so we might as well just hang out and wait for the end and let somebody else do the work.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to read Paul sort of. I don't think anyone ever encouraged me when I was younger to read Paul and like thinking about like what must have been going on in these communities he's writing to, like.
Right, and these communities are sort of the types, the form of all Christian communities that would follow. Like, you can pretty much find your parish, for instance, or your home, your family, or your diocese, or whatever, in one of the communities that Paul writes to.
Right.
It's human nature is in there. Yeah. So he talks about how, hey, look at me. When I came to visit, or whatever I do now, I'm apostle. I don't have to work. By right, as the apostle, you have an obligation to support me. I do the work of bringing you the gospel and preaching
and baptizing and saying mass and all of the other things that a bishop would do.
But for your sake, he says, I'm still working. I'm doing the work, just so that I can be a good role model. You can imitate me. Right.
Now, this is one of my favorite readings. I actually quote this one all the time. He who won't work shouldn't eat.
Right.
Doesn't get to eat. I say to that to kids all the time, like,
if you don't work, you don't eat.
It's time to set the table. Oh, I don't want to. Okay, he who doesn't work doesn't eat. And then suddenly, like, they are very interested in setting the table.
Well, they're semi-interested.
They're much more interested.
They're a little more motivated.
Yeah.
And they drag themselves up. But yes. One of the things I was thinking is to contrast that with the Nazi phrase that was over the gates of Auschwitz, Arbeit macht frei. The
work makes free.
Work makes you free. And the difference in that is that it's not the same thing. Paul isn't saying, work for its own sake makes gives you, is important for its own sake. It's not the work that's important. It's the attitude. It's the love that is in the work. We work because otherwise someone else has to do it.
Well, yeah. Basically, he's saying, don't be a mooch.
Right. Don't be a parasite on the community.
Right. I mean, and it's interesting because he says, he doesn't say some of you can't work. He says some of you refuse to work.
Right. That's a big difference.
So he's, I mean, they're not opposed to feeding people who are sick or feeble and unable to work. They're opposed to people who are perfectly capable of working who just decide to be lazy and sit there and do nothing.
Mooch off the system. Yes, that's interesting. And one of the other thing he says is, I also hear that some people are conducting yourselves in a disorderly way by not keeping busy but minding the business of others.
I love the pun there, and I'm wondering, it's got to be a pun in the Greek too, right?
I could tell you very quickly by looking at verbum.
Because in English, I've seen several different translations, like not being busy but being busybodies, or the busyness thing. It's like translators can't help but try to make there be a word play there.
Well, I'm gonna guess that there probably is a word play in that. That is my software verbum loading, which was I got a complimentary copy recently from the fine folks at Logos or Faith Life. I'm not sure what the company name is, but Verbum is the Catholic version of their software, and really cool. It's a complete library of everything, but also for Bible study. I'll talk about it some other time on Secrets of Tech, I think, probably. Maybe I'll do that. But this was in 2 Thessalonians. How do you spell? Thessalo, O-N-I-N. Passage. It's such a powerful tool. I need to look at some videos to figure out how it all works, but I can look it up. But I'm going to guess that the words are related because you see in almost every translation, it makes that connection between the two. By not keeping busy but minding the business of others. In other words, if you were busy, when you're busy, when you have we have your work to do and you're keeping your head in the game, your head in your business, you don't have time to gossip. You don't have time to worry about what that person over there is doing. Like, mommy, she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing. Well, why don't you do what you're supposed to do? Let me worry about them. Or actually, more often it's not mommy they're not doing. It's, hey, you should be doing this, that, and the other thing. You've noticed that lately, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that going on.
We all do it. We all did it as kids, especially. That, hey, you should be doing it. Well, no, you keep on your business. It's not your job to monitor your brother or sister. That's my job. So you do what you need to be doing. I'll take care of that. And there'll be peace. And that's what Paul is basically saying here. And then he says, such people we instruct and urge in the Lord Jesus Christ to work quietly and to eat their own food. I like that phrase, to eat their own food. Eat your own food. Yeah, eat your own food. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Eat your own. And I mean, it's keeping in mind that the gathering, the faith gathering of the people still included at this time the agape meal, the version of the Passover meal. They would gather for a literal meal. So that's part of it, a meal in common. So that's part of what the work is being done, the food is being served, the food is being cooked, the things are taking place in common in a community, and some people were just sitting back waiting to get served while other people did all the work. I think that's part of it. So I really like this passage. Like you said, this is a good passage. So
it's a good for sort of family life.
Yeah, it's a good model for families. This is a way.
But also, I really like what St. Paul says about like himself being a role model, like doing, acting the way he wants his followers to act.
Yeah,
as parents, we should keep that in mind too.
He's still making tents. I'm gonna guess.
Right.
I mean, I would think, right? He's a tent maker. Maybe that's what he means by doing the work. Anyway, so from there we go to the gospel, which this week is from Luke chapter 21, and this whole passage about the temple's destruction. Jesus tells people about, hey, the temple is going. It's going to be destroyed in our lifetime. But he says this not out of the blue. He says this for a reason. The passage starts with, while some people were speaking about how the temple was adorned with costly stones and votive offerings, Jesus sidles up and says, yeah, all that's days are numbered.
Right. Yeah. I hadn't ever caught that before, but today that jumped out at me. The people are sitting around saying, wow, the temple's really cool. It's really beautiful. Oh, look at that. All this stuff on it. And he's like, yeah, it's passing.
Right. That's going away. There was so the other podcast I do with Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, we did an episode a year ago now, actually, on the fall of Jerusalem. Let me pull that up here. And where we talked about this, partially we talked about this passage and some of the prophecies and other things about, Jesus' prophecy that the temple would be destroyed. And I'll put a link in it because it's a really cool discussion. But this idea that, people were admiring the temple because of its beauty. Look at how wonderful the temple is. It's adorned with costly stones and offerings. And you say, well, yeah, I mean, we build beautiful churches today with beautiful, costly artwork. And how's that different? And you had a good insight on that. You said that what's the essential difference you saw between them?
I have no idea. Okay. It was too long ago this morning.
All right.
You were paying more attention to what I said than I was.
Well, you said what the difference is that our churches, we make them beautiful because of what they contain. We admire the beauty of our churches, not in and of themselves, not because they are museums or art galleries, but because they contain the Eucharist, because God is present there. Well,
and that was supposed to be the idea of the temple. It's not like the temple wasn't.
Right, exactly. Right. But they were admiring it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
They said, well, look how proud we are of having this amazing temple we spent all this money on it. Aren't we great because of that?
But meanwhile, they're missing the presence of God in the temple.
The literal Shekinah glory cloud of the Lord in the Holy of Holies.
But also, as we've been seeing in a lot of the daily readings, they're missing the glory of God that's right in front of them. They're missing Jesus.
Right.
You see that over and over again in the readings from Luke this past week. Is they're constantly, people are missing Jesus is right there. Like, what is they ask, what is the kingdom of God? When is it coming? And he's like, you're missing the point. The kingdom of God is here right now. You're looking at it. I'm the king. You're here in my kingdom.
Right.
This is the kingdom of God. It doesn't get any better than this. This is it right here. It's smacking you in the face.
Teacher, when will this happen? Right now. It's happening.
Right.
Well, when they say that, they're not referring to the kingdom coming. What they're referring to when he says that the temple will be destroyed, a stone upon another stone. There will not be a stone left that will not be thrown down. The temple will be wiped out. And you got to imagine what that must have sounded like to people at that time. The temple, God's dwelling in Israel, it's not going anywhere. This huge place, it's hundreds of years old. It's permanent. It's here.
Although it had been destroyed in the past.
Sure, and then rebuilt bigger and better. But yeah, I mean, but that's, for the people living at that time, that was sort of like a hypothetical past. Like, when it's not in your own experience, it doesn't seem as real as the present, what's present to you. And it feels solid. Just like we think, well, the United States has always been around, right? Well, no, only for a couple hundred years. All empires fall. There'll come a day, perhaps, when the United States is gone, wiped out, as a political entity, and something else will have replaced it. Entirely possible, I mean, but from our point of view, that seems crazy to talk.
Right.
And I think that might have been like that for people, but the thing I was thinking about was that stone will not be left upon another stone. And we actually saw, neither of us have ever been to the Holy Land, but we saw one of the temple stones.
Right. A few years ago, probably more than a few years ago now.
Like 4 years ago.
Oh.
No, more than that, like 5 or 6 years ago.
Much more like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
The Museum of Science in Boston had a really cool exhibit of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but then it wasn't just the Dead Sea Scrolls. They also had all these other archaeological artifacts from Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And they also had a really cool IMAX movie about Jerusalem.
Narrated by Benedict Cumberbatch.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew who Benedict Cumberbatch was at that point.
Really?
Yeah.
Sherlock had been out by that point.
I had not seen it.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that later. But
okay.
But one of the things they had there was an actual stone, this huge stone block that was part of the temple.
Yeah, that really impressed Isabella.
Because it was so big.
Yeah.
And it's not even one of the bigger stones. Like some of the larger foundation stones that are still there of the Western Wall are as big as a house. Like just the idea of how these stones were moved.
I can't even comprehend a stone as big as a house.
They're massive. It's incredible. But so to see the stone there so heavy, like it just, the work that would take, that would have to go into knocking every stone over. That would have to be, I mean, the Romans were nothing if not determined. They
Right.
literally built a wall across England to keep the Celts out of England, Hadrian's Wall. I mean, when they set their mind to a thing, they did a thing.
They were good builders.
They built the ramp to Masada. I mean, they did a thing. and so they put their mind to it, and they tore down the temple. So, it's just interesting to have that image there of every block will be thrown down, but don't be afraid. You'll hear of this stuff that's going to happen. And, we're living in the end times. A lot of people take that a little literally, like, oh, the world's going to end in our lifetime. No, the end times began at the resurrection, and they will be completed at the second coming. However long that is, 10,000 years maybe. The fact is as perhaps your priest or deacon pointed out to you, it doesn't really matter because your end time is coming. We all have a clock ticking, and when that clock stops, that's our end time. We are facing the end of our world, and we're go to our judgment. And that's what really Jesus is talking about here. And it's we got to be paying attention. You said the deacon said something that was really good that caught your attention, but do you remember it now?
No idea.
No, it was he made an interesting point about the hopefulness though that we should have. That it's not this isn't like something we should be scared of or saddened by, but a hopefulness of a life that's going to continue. I was likening it to the talking about, like, you're sad when someone dies, but there's a life that goes beyond. And I was making the connection to, as a parent, when we see our children who are grown, whether they're teens now or adults or whatever, and we see that we love them and we're so proud of them and they give us joy. But at the same time, we often feel a little sad that the baby that they were, or the toddler, or the little child that they were, is gone now.
Right. You look at those baby pictures and you think, oh my gosh, what happened to that sweet baby? I miss it. I miss that baby, even though you're standing right next to the same child. Right.
The person they've become. But you miss the baby, the little voice and the things that they did and the cuteness. Especially, I would guess, if you're estranged from your child or something, that would be even worse. And in some ways, it's like how we experience the death and resurrection, like this life and the afterlife. When someone dies in this life, we miss them, but yet in the next, we know that there is a next life, there is an afterlife, there's a eternity that they could be going to, hopefully, God willing, that we will see them again. But we sort of mourn the loss. We mourn the loss, even as we anticipate the good thing that they are now. And I don't know, all these thoughts kind of came together this morning as we were hearing the gospel and in the other readings at Mass, and as we are looking at the end of the liturgical year and toward Advent. It's just, I'm so grateful that the church has this cycle that makes us confront these things on a regular basis, on an annual basis. Heaven, hell, death, and purgatory, the last things, because it's so easy to not want to talk about it. But we will, because it's part of life. So that's what I had to say. Anything left you want to say about the gospel?
Yeah. If you want something coherent about it from me, you have to catch me
I have to get
earlier in the day.
I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to start recording you while I'm doing pancakes after Mass.
Right.
We'll set up a recorder, and then everyone will have to hear what it's like in our house on Sunday morning after Mass.
That would be very coherent
Yeah.
either. Just there's so much background noise.
Yes, the running around and all. Anyway, all right. So let's wrap it up. We've done this for an hour, and I think we've had a good episode here. First, I want to make sure that we take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Raising the Bets, including, excuse me, SB Writing Services, Barbara G, Kimberly W, Lynn F, and Suzanne S. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Raising the Bets and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. We'd love to hear what you think of our discussion. We'll have the links to various articles that we talked about in the show notes. You can send us feedback by going to sqpn.com/bets and leaving a comment there, or on the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to bets@sqpn.com. You can write a review at Apple Podcasts and share the podcast with your friends to help us grow our community and reach more listeners. Until next time, I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
Thank you for listening to Raising the Bets on StarQuest.